What do we got out here, folks? Hemi Dodge Ram. Looks like probably 2500 or 3500. It's the 4-door. It's the Hemi. It's the 2012. It's got the duct tape. Customer says the money light's on. How many miles are on this baby? 102, 146. And he says he's also already replaced the gas cap, and I see why. So we got the gas cap light, flashing TPMS, check fuel cap message. Okay, so we know we're dealing with an EVAP issue. So let's go check this out. I think we already did a video on one of these. Yeah, it was that one with the fuel tank pressure sensor, lost the 5-volt reference, had the wire rubbed through on the cross member. So we'll have to keep that in mind. Don't see many of these trucks here. Ooh, there she is. Supposedly the engine has been replaced in this before he purchased it. I guess this engine only has like 15,000 miles on it. So he says, or he's been told. I'm gonna try the best I can with this here, folks. Vanessa O is not here today, and it can be a little hectic, to say the least. So we're gonna pop in here, put the battery maintainer on it. We're gonna use Y-Tech because we have it. And we're going to go in here, we'll read the codes, and then my computer is going to give us the black screen of death. Awesome. Round 2, folks. Let's see, where were we before the black screen of death? We're coming in here to check codes. Let's see, we have a 457 and a 456. So we're looking at loose fuel cap and then EVAP small leak. And we suspected we were going to have EVAP codes based on what we saw pulling it in. So let's just pop over to data here and let's find our fuel tank pressure sensor. Okay, there we go. So we have no voltage reading. So that's interesting. And then whatever the unit of PA is, that I don't know. We have 73 of them though. We have 73 Pennsylvanias and no voltage. So that's interesting. We should still have an ESIM switch. So let's see if we can find that. Oops, oops. Here's a guy fumbling. Let's try this again. ESIM. There it is. ESIM switch. It's open, so that's good. It means it's not stuck closed. It's interesting though, we don't have fuel tank pressure. That's kind of throwing me for a loop here. I would have thought we would have seen that, and I don't know why. So buttons on my underwear. I'm gonna have to figure out what the Pennsylvania standard unit is here, and then I would assume that this has a fuel tank pressure sensor on it, and we should see the voltage. I don't know why. Okay, we're pretty much at a standstill. Google, it's our friend. 73 Pennsylvanias, or Pascals as they call them, are 0.01 PSI, so basically atmospheric pressure. Let's pop back into service data. We're going to go over to the fuel tank. We're going to make sure that this is a live data PID. We're going to blow a little air in the tank. I'm thinking it's not live because it's sitting at 73, and this is a very fine measurement, and that should be bouncing around. So let's just go check that out. Well, that's kind of odd feeling. Thought he said he replaced the cap. It's kind of cruddy looking if he did. Got some blow nozzle. We don't even need to cover it up. We just need to give a little toot in here. Okay, now let's go look at some scan data. See. Oh, look at that. It is a live reading. Okay, we took her up to 520 Pennsylvanias, or Pascals as they call them. So at least we know we can trust that data PID, so that's good. So why is that important? It's one of the big players in the EVAP system. I haven't read the theory and operation on this particular Chrysler, but I do know your fuel tank pressure sensor and your ESIM switch on these are going to be two of the big players to say whether or not, hey, we got a small leak or a large leak or the gas cap's off. So now that we know that functions and responds, at least we know we can trust it here on scan data. Next thing we have to do is find out where our canister purge valve lives, you would think that would be relatively easy. Oh, there it is. It's buried under a whole bunch of wires over here. Okay. So it looks like it takes, I don't know, can you guys see? It takes its vacuum here right from the back of the throttle body, comes down, purge valves here right underneath the battery, and then it heads that way to the rear of the engine. And that is all plastic line also. And what we need to know is, does the purge valve work? If the purge valve doesn't open, the PCM is just going to interpret it as a gross leak. Does that make sense? So it has to be able to pull a vacuum on it and, you know, seal the system off with the ESIM switch, so to speak. And then that's how it can tell whether or not you've left the gas cap off. So if there's no vacuum going to the tank, it thinks there must be a huge leak because it doesn't see that change. So if it were me, I would be making sure that our purge valve functions before I move on with anything else. So a lot of aftermarket stuff on this little guy. It has a snowplow on it, so all the wiring here is right above the purge valve. So let's see if we can get to it. We can do some tests on it. We can make sure that it's opening and closing. And if I remember right, in good Chrysler fashion, we can't do that with the engine running, so I'll probably just turn it on and then we'll suck on this with our lips, and just to make sure that the valve does function and does open. There we go. Okay, so we've got this off. It's best that we do it this way, because if it is broke down there at the purge valve and you start fiddling with it, sometimes that'll snap them back to life. So we want to avoid that if it is broken. If we give it a little sucky, it should be shut. And it is. And up here on the scan tool, over here, where you guys can't see it, I've got the proportional purge solenoid pulled up on the screen. We're going to open it at 50%. Start the test. Yeah, and I can blow right through it now. There we go. Beautiful. So we know that the purge valve functions. We should have vacuum here. I mean, that shouldn't be a big mystery. So we know a couple things. All right, well, I guess what I would do at this point is make sure that the ESIM switch works. And how we do that is we can either go back and take the hose off it and very gingerly just give it a little blow into the ESIM switch, and we should watch it change status on the tool. It should go closed. Or the other thing you can do is apply vacuum here and open the purge valve and watch on scan data, and we should see the ESIM switch drop closed. That's the fastest way to tell if the ESIM switch works. They're very high failure items, so I think before we hook this up, I'm going to take a little crawl underneath it. If it's accessible, we'll just give it a little blow under there. I don't remember what the inches of water is that it naturally closes, but it's very light. You very lightly have to blow on it. Let's say a quarter to a half a PSI, something like that. So let me see if I can go find it. Here on scan data, we've got the ESIM switch, and I've got it graphing here about 60 seconds across the screen. We'll go underneath here and give it a little toot, and then we'll come back and see what we see if it switches. I did find it, and this truck's off the ground far enough we don't even need to put on a lift. So that's the ESIM switch, that's the canister, and we're gonna give a little toot right on the end of it. A lot of make-out stuff here with the Dodge, but and as you blow in this, you'll feel it slightly close. So typically, you know, somebody's gonna be like, oh, you know, that's, you know, usually under vacuum. So blowing in this side of it it kind of simulates a vacuum on the other side. You gotta trust me, it works, folks. Okay, that should be enough. Let's go have a looky. Hang on. Well, looky, it didn't change status at all. So, what's that tell us? It tells us we likely have a faulty switch, or we're missing voltage back there. Now, I can't remember, these work in a couple different modes. They're a little different than the Chrysler NVLD systems, in the sense that I think once the vehicle's turned off, these run at a different voltage. Like they're 5 volts normal, then they're 8 volts normal, then run at 5 volts, or they're normally at 12 and then run at 8 volts, key off, something like that. It's not a huge concern. All we want to know now is the wiring back there good? And I'm pretty sure they have a reference voltage and a ground, and then they just they pull it down. We can look in repair info real quick, just as the wiring diagram, because I think all we need to do is unplug it, touch the two wires together, the switch status will go from open to closed. That verifies our wiring, and the fact that we blew in it and it didn't change, well, that tells us our switch is bad. Okie dokie, let's see here. So here is the pull wiring diagram for the EVAP system. And let's see, so we have, let's see if we can enhance again. We have our fuel tank pressure sensor, which we know works. We have our purge solenoid, which we know works or appears to work at this point. And then we have our ESIM switch, and all it says is ESIM signal. So I still, you know, again, I don't know what the voltage output of that is. I do know it changes key on or key off. Best memory serves me, and then it goes to ground. So yes, it pulls this signal to ground, and we've tried lightly blowing in the ESIM switch and sucking on it, and I can feel it open and close as I do that. So at this point, we just need to go down there, short those two wires together, and see if it changes status here on scan data, which we still have up here, and if it does, then boom, simple as that. Needs a new switch, baby. Oh, I usually don't speak creeper, but today I am. ESIM, it is your EVAP System Integrity Monitor. In case you guys are wondering, I had to look up the acronym for you because I can never remember all of them. But we're going to take and unplug it. And according to service data, it is normally 12 volts. And in some instances, it is green and corroded, like that. A big chunk just fell on my arm and it stayed there. Let's see if I can get you. The green crusty, it just landed on me. So there, we were right. But yeah, that's all green and crusty. So I guess we can just back probe it, make sure that functions, and then we'll take it from there. So I got us a couple of back probes here and a jumper. I'm just going to back probe it. I want to make sure that the wiring here is still good, which I think it should be. A couple things. Fun fact, the fuel tank pressure sensor, according to Chrysler, is not used in leak detection. So it is not important that we make sure that functions. In my mind it is. I think it's a useful tool, but the ESIM switch here is used more for leak detection than the fuel tank pressure sensor, which I don't know why they have that or what it does. But anyhow, so think about that. And the other thing I'm concerned about while we're down here having a little one-on-one is I think the system really does have a leak, because even though the ESIM switch here isn't functioning electrically, I believe it's still functioning mechanically, because it's simply a mechanical valve that opens and closes at a certain pressure. So bringing this vehicle in from sitting out there in the fuel tank getting hot in the sun, I would have expected to see our pascals going up to its maximum range, which I think was 250 pascals on the positive side and like negative 500 on the negative side, where it opens and closes the mechanically weighted valve in here. So I think even though this is a problem, once we get it and get it fixed, we may actually have a leak that we have to go check out. Our status is now closed. Awesome. And I was expecting this to change a little bit here. Gosh, I hope I didn't miss that the first time. Nah, I don't think we did, because I just unhooked it. Yeah, okay. Woo. All right, so I want to make sure I wasn't missing it, even though it is all corroded. It's going to be it for this one right now, folks. Our EVAP System Integrity Monitor switch, the ESIM switch and the connector. Not too uncommon on these to see that fail, and particularly to see them, you know, corrode off and stuff. I've seen that before, but I don't like just going at a system and just, you know, willy-nilly. Let's figure out what's working and what's not, because honestly, everything on these Chryslers is high failure prone. The purge valves, they actually have leaks. Their hoses are really crappy. They use a lot of the rubber connections, and I think that's what we're gonna also find once we get a good working switch that works electrically. I think we're gonna find we probably still have a leak, or we do have a leak, simply because when we brought it in, like I say, that switch should be working mechanically, and we should be able to use the fuel tank pressure sensor, even though the system itself doesn't. And we should have watched it naturally building pressure or naturally building vacuum. And we didn't see that when we brought it in. It was just an atmospheric pressure. But a couple things. The ESIM switch, the mechanically weighted valve in there could be malfunctioning. I doubt it, but it could be. or we could actually have a leak. But let's take care of the problems that we know at hand. You know, we know the purge valve appears to be working at this point. The pressure sensor appears to be working, even though that's not a player in the game according to service data. But we know the ESIM switch is junk. So let's get that. I'll see if I can get one from Chrysler, see if I can get us a connector. We'll get it fixed up. May not be today, but it'll be soon. And I know this guy will have us do the job. So we'll get on it, and then we'll just see you guys in part 2. And that's that. So stick around.